Hi everyone, and welcome to today's IAB Europe's Industry Insider webinar. My name is Marie-Claire and I work for IAB Europe, and today I am joined by Chris Edwards from Rakuten Advertising to share some insights from Rakuten's latest research into how consumers are engaging with VOD services and their attitudes towards advertising. He's also going to examine the impact that COVID-19 has had on viewing behaviours. This is part of a series of fact-based content and insights that we are providing with our members to the network. But before we kick off, we would just like to establish the stakeholder breakdown of the audience with a very quick poll, which should just pop up on your screens in just a second. So if you could just take a minute to complete the poll for us, and then I will let everyone know the results. And just while that's going on, Chris will also have another poll during his presentation today, so we appreciate your participation in that one too. And his presentation will be followed by a Q&A session, so you do have the opportunity to ask questions to Chris. So please submit those in the Q&A box, which you should see at the bottom or the top of the Zoom screen. And my colleague Helen will then run the Q&A session with Chris after his presentation. The webinar is being recorded and will be available to view afterwards, and also all attendees will be sent a link to download the research as well. So thank you to everyone for completing the poll. We have a good breakdown of people. So we've got around, getting up on my screen, around 5% advertisers. People are still joining, I see as well, but at the moment we've got around 5% advertisers, 20% agencies, 36% ad tech, approximately 20% publishers, a couple of people from media and press, a couple of people from other industry associations, and then about 20% others as well. So thank you everyone for helping us with that. I'm now going to hand over to Chris for his presentation. So over to you, Chris. You should now be able to share your screen, hopefully.
Great, thanks very much, Marie-Claire. Can you see that screen?
Yes, perfect.
Great, I'll just blow it up. Okay, well, hello everyone. Thanks for having me today and then taking the time to listen to the results of this consumer study that we ran very recently into the impact of AVOD. So with advertising video based on demand, commonly known as AVOD, brands can reach audiences who are streaming content on demand. It has been widely reported that as a result of the COVID crisis, that the amount of online media consumed had risen. Over 50% of people worldwide are watching more streaming content from staying at home, and there's little doubt that video on demand, or VOD, is enjoying a surge in viewers. Now, the full potential of AVOD is only just being realised, and it's an area that is set to grow further. Digital TV research has predicted that a global AVOD expenditure will more than double between now and 2025, reaching $53 billion. So this research study from Rakuten Advertising explores this opportunity. So to give you a little context into Rakuten Advertising and who we are, Rakuten Advertising is a division of Rakuten Incorporated, one of the world's leading internet service companies for consumer and businesses, with a focus on e-commerce and digital content. The business is split into three pillars, the first one being the media solution. This gives agencies and brands access to unique audiences across Rakuten's diverse media properties. These include a messaging platform in Viber, an online video streaming platform in Viki, and a cross-device hybrid streaming platform in Rakuten TV. Then there is the performance marketing. This solution provides leading products to acquire, engage, and convert new customers across affiliate, display, and paid search. Plus, there is the consumer insight solution. This is Rakuten Intelligence, which is comprised of millions of online shoppers in its panel, Through anonymized commerce data, it has the ability to reveal accurate insights, and the proprietary consumer data measures trends across retailers, brands, and logistics. So moving on, throughout this study, we'll be referencing video on demand as a collective that combines the three services of AVOD, TVOD, and SVOD. So to define these three services in a bit more detail before we start, AVOD is the free-to-view on-demand service funded by advertising. It is distinguished from other VOD services that involve a monthly subscription, which is commonly known as SVOD, or content to a transactional per-view basis known as TVOD. With SVOD and TVOD, brands are limited to target audiences through connected devices. However, AVOD helps brands and advertisers connect with engaged and affluent video-on-demand viewers who are usually hard to reach. So, as Marie-Claire mentioned earlier, we wanted to uncover the truth of this study and show what the appetite of VOD is as a whole versus traditional TV viewing. So before we start, I'd like to run a quick poll to you so we can compare your results against our findings. So the question being, if you can't see it on your screen, is do you watch more traditional TV or video on demand? And video on demand being a combination of all three services. Please vote on your screens now, and then we'll compare the results a little bit later on. I'll give you a minute or two just to make a decision. Okay, so thanks for doing that, and we'll have a look at that later. This research examines the awareness of AVOD and the favourability towards the service and reveals how audiences have used the service both during lockdown and beyond. It was conducted in partnership with Qualtrics, where we surveyed over 5,000 consumers looking across UK, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, and the Netherlands. Now, the demographic of respondents was broad and it captured the full demographic scope. In terms of regions, however, there was a larger sample market within UK, Germany, and France, as this is where Rakuten Advertising has, or currently has, larger footprints. So consumer appetite for AVOD presents a huge opportunity. Now, what we did is we asked participants how likely they would be to sign up for a free streaming service that had all the content that they enjoyed if they required watching several ads. Now, nearly 60% of consumers across Europe said they'd be willing to watch it if it gave them access to free content. Now, with 35% of consumers agreeing that their financial situations have been affected by the current climate, it's understandable that many are conscious of their spending. So appetite for free-to-view content is certainly paramount at the moment. Interestingly, the average EU consumer subscribes to only 2 paid-for subscription services, despite there being much more choice at the moment and many more to come. Now, while AVOD is certainly a newer growing service, it stands to benefit from the fact that VOD has been around for some time and is hugely popular and is still growing. So what we want to do is ask the participants how they choose how they watch video from a list of platforms and services. For the purpose of this research, we categorized the platforms and services into 3 parts. We looked at traditional TV, which is a combination of live TV, recorded and playback TV, as well as owned video. We classified VOD as the 3 streaming services, AVOD, SVOD, and TVOD. And then it was video sites such as YouTube and Twitch, as well as social media sites as well. Now, VOD services came in second to traditional TV, yet it exceeded video sites like YouTube and Twitch at 11%, and social media at 10%, giving a combined view of 22%. And then when looking at VOD overall usage across device, it was seen as a pretty even split between all devices when looking at this content. So digging deeper into the analysis and how video is viewed, we broke this out into audience demographics. Now, we saw an older generation of viewers, 55 plus, looking at the baby boomers and silver surfers, who are still spending much more of their time watching traditional TV, indicating more habitual behavior. However, the younger generation have adopted streaming more openly, spending more time on VOD, certainly more than traditional TV. But however, it's more of the Gen Zs who are leaning more towards the newly termed cordless generation, those who are veering away from plug-in live TV. Now, we were then able to dissect the cordless generation and also identify this new cord never generation, those who do not watch traditional TV or paid for TV subscription. Out of this list, it was evident that 21% of participants across Europe fall into this category, and this is where we can identify incremental reach of those hard to reach users. Furthermore, to identify if this incrementality can be altered or adjusted, if we included the likes of the video sites such as YouTube, it revealed that the share was actually higher in showing those who stream but do not look at video communities like YouTube. In fact, we're also able to identify a new and expanding audience, those who do not watch traditional TV and do not watch video sites, who are only streaming their content through VOD services, and still, acquiring a 12% scale reach on Europe as a whole. Now, we asked you a little bit earlier if you currently watch more traditional TV or VOD services. So let's see if your results match those that came out in the study. And I just need to look at the chat version. Yeah, sorry, Marie-Claire, I can't see the results on my side.
No worries, Chris. I will. I'll read them out to you. So traditional live TV was 11%, and VOD services was 89%.
Wow, big figures. So yeah, that's absolutely, I certainly matches the outcome not only across individual regions but certainly as a collective. So so that's great. Thanks very much for submitting those results. Right, moving on. We asked our participants over the next month how would they expect their video viewing to change as a result of the pandemic, from significantly increase all the way through down to significantly decrease. Now, 23% of participants said that their AVOD usage would increase. In fact, during the same month, which was June, eMarketer released a study into time spent with media, which echoed this trend of users turning to on-demand streaming services during the crisis. This happened to such an extent that in France and Germany, popular streaming sites had to reduce their streaming quality because of the demand and the huge surge. Now, we then also asked participants, once coronavirus is brought under control, how would they expect their viewing habits to change? And a majority share, 78%, said their AVOD usage would increase or remain the same. So we're looking at the responses and how viewing would change, comparing both during COVID and post-COVID. We can share that AVOD is not expected to suffer such a higher churn rate as any of the other services. Now, if you look at the chart on the left side, you will see the red and purple shaded increase percentage figures, that there is a predicted increase in AVOD viewing, but the SVOD and live traditional TV viewing increased the most during lockdown. However, if you switch across to the right side, you get an idea of how sustainable these viewing habits were once things had come out the other side. Although SVOD and live traditional TV increased the most during lockdown, post-lockdown, they're expected to see the biggest decreases as normal life resumes, which is demonstrated by the blue and purple shaded decrease percentages. Now, if you look at the amount of people who think AVOD viewing habits will stay the same or increase, you'll see that the majority think they will. This suggests those who have signed up for subscription services to keep them entertained during lockdown could cancel payments when life returns to normal. People who sign up for AVOD, however, aren't restricted by any additional costs. They're likely to keep that the same. So overall, 24% are less likely to discontinue their AVOD usage than their SVOD usage, and 30% less likely to discontinue their AVOD usage than their traditional TV usage post-lockdown. So connected TV offers an opportunity for advertisers to tailor their ads with relevant messaging to specific audiences. This next section looks and explores what type of ads could drive this success. So we asked our participants, would they increase the likelihood to watch ads on a free streaming service, and choose a range of questions that included the likes of relevant ads based on viewing habits, asking for brands or following brands that they like, ads that are funny, engaging, or entertaining, to name but a few. So 49% of users said that the ads that were funny and engaging would increase the likelihood to view a new AVOD service. In fact, consumers in Spain who are, and Italy, are particularly likely to be motivated by more engaging ads, with 57% and 54% in those markets respectively saying that this would encourage them to sign up. The more engaging the advertising, the more open consumers are to watching ads in exchange for viewing content. So content is king. However, the pandemic has either cancelled or certainly put a halt to future productions in many cases, with a lot of repeat viewing and repeat programming being shown at present. Plus, all paid for streaming services come at a cost. So, what can AVOD bring to meet this challenge? So we asked participants if they felt they were missing out on content and to highlight what sort of content they missed out on from all category genres. 64% say they were missing out on content as a whole, and this was particularly the case in Spain, where 76% of people felt they were missing out. But with all live sports across the EU cancelled at the time of this study, there were no surprises that sports and the type of programming was what they missed most, followed by documentaries and comedy. AVOD, on the other hand, it allows consumers to explore all genres of content without having to commit to any additional spend. And then, where live sport has been excluded across the board, our very own Rakuten TV, which is our hybrid TVOD and AVOD platform, is able to appease the demand for sport by launching a range of free-to-view, original and exclusive sport documentaries, such as the Andreas Iniesta documentary, the story of the iconic footballer from Spain, Made in Senegal, which was the story of Liverpool FC striker Sadio Mane, and more recently, The Secrets of La Roja, which is the story of the 2010 National World Cup winning side from Spain. So looking at the opportunity and the additional insights across Europe, we also asked participants further leading questions into the length of time they were watching video, or how much more they would pay on top of their existing subscription services, or why they chose to discontinue any services. Now, this is the view for all of Europe combined. We do also have views for the individual European regions, which are available on the full research download. You can get this as part of the follow-up, or you can email me directly after this, and I'll happily provide the details. However, but looking at this slide, the main highlight here is pricing. Paying for content has clearly been a barrier for some consumers, with 26% saying they have cancelled services because the price was too high, and 35% saying they would cancel an existing subscription to pay for a new one. And this is all despite nearly 3/4 of all the people that responded to this consuming more than 1 hour plus of VOD content every single day. But what is evident here is that AVOD stands as certainly the alternative to combat pricing across Europe for streaming quality content. So in summary, people are engaging with video on demand, but there's certainly an appetite for AVOD platforms as consumer viewing habits and certainly their preferences are changing as we ease out of these changing times and look beyond 2021. Thank you very much for your time. I will welcome the Q&A questions now.
Thank you very much, Chris. So we've got some good questions that are coming in. I thought we are going to go straight to quite a hard-hitting question here. So will streaming or AVOD ever replace live TV entirely?
Well, that's a quite hard-hitting one. My honest opinion, I don't think it will. There is a place for both. What you see is with traditional live TV, they have seen such surge in viewerships just as much as the AVOD and VOD streaming platforms, that there is definitely a place for both. As long as there is great quality content across both, then both have just an importance in their role.
So that actually leads on quite nicely in terms of the content. Someone said, what factors do you think contribute to the surge in AVOD usage, especially, I think, over the last few months? Is it because there's better content being streamed there than traditional TV?
I mean, I don't think there's a case of bad, because there's, like I said, there's a place for both. I think with the AVOD platforms, there is certainly more choice. And people can direct their choice and fulfill exactly what it is they want to watch. I know with traditional TV, you're more at odds to follow a particular schedule, so you have to watch at certain times of the day if you don't watch it on the playback. But choice is certainly paramount. But of course, quality content is just as key. Okay,
great. How do you stand out in an ever-growing AVOD sector?
Yeah, it is certainly growing, and this will continue as we go into 2021. I think the main focus, and I touched on this earlier, is original content, quality original content to have that standout. It's all good and well, repeating content that's already been shown or is shown elsewhere. So I think exclusive original content certainly puts you in good stead. And I listed a couple of examples of what Rakuten TV has. That's certainly been a real sort of a point of difference that we have in market.
Great. Okay. And have you seen any trends in the verticals or the different type of advertisers that are investing at the moment in AVOD?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the categories of verticals that really sort of embraced AVOD is certainly the auto sector. Because most of AVOD is consumed on the biggest screen in the household, which in turn leads to the audience being sort of fairly affluent. So the auto sector really embraced sort of driving targeting messages against great quality content. So I think they've been the one that's driven the most, alongside sort of the FMCG category as well.
And for auto, even in lockdown, did you still see that kind of investment?
Of course. Well, during lockdown, there was a slight quiet period, let's just say.
Yeah.
But if you look at the AVOD period as a whole, both during and leading out, the one that is certainly seeing the surge is the auto sector. But there was a month or two of quietness.
And in terms of the different ad types, and I think this is looking at, someone said here, what ad types do you find resonate best with audiences? This may go back to some of your comments earlier on about you need to have good content in the ads. And is there any advice on the ad times? Have you done any research into that?
Well, what has been, I guess, the most effective is to have shorter bursts. And so what works most effective with us in terms of time frame is anything between 20 and 30 seconds is the most engagement time. We wouldn't recommend anything that exceeds that, because you lose the viewer's attention. AVOD certainly has less ad breaks, less ad spots, there's less clutter. So the shorter, sharper messaging is what resonates best, certainly from our experience.
Great. And what? Okay, so this one's just looking, I think, back to the earlier stats, so the first few slides. Why is Germany so different from the other markets?
Yeah, I think the viewerships in Germany change. I mean, it's down to the devices that they have that is more prominent over there. So, for example, Samsung has a very large footprint in Germany. So the smart TV consumption is certainly far greater than the traditional TV viewing. But yeah, Germany does seem to show a variety of different figures, not just in the viewerships, but also the type of programming as well. But I think it's primarily down to how connected TV consumption has been embraced in that country.
Okay, so this one is looking at investment levels. So the trade desk are predicting that in the next 5 years, 50% of all inventory bought programmatically will be CTV. Do you agree with this prediction?
Yeah, I certainly do. I mean, connected TV is where there's opportunity. I mean, this has been around for a number of years, but it's really starting to make a difference. And I think the factor that has been where we've always been compared against traditional TV is against the scale. You know, it's never going to be meeting the same sort of levels of traditional TV. However, what connected TV does bring is that incremental reach. And I think when seen side by side supporting broadcast, yes, you will absolutely see a huge surge in investments in the coming 12 to 24 months.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. And I guess going back to the scale question here, so someone has asked, what AVOD services are scalable across markets/regions? Or are AVOD services scalable?
Yes, I mean there are several AVOD services out there, and all have their own different levels of scale. But yeah, scale across all regions. I mean, Rakuten TV, for example, is a pan-European. I mean, we have the largest pan-European scale for an AVOD platform. There are other platforms which are specific to other regions, but we're happy that we have for all 42 regions of Europe that we are available in.
Great. Now this is looking at measurement, and as we know, it's, I guess, CTV is that ongoing debate about measurement, cross-screen measurement. So what methods exist to measure audience delivery for AVOD for advertisers?
Yeah, measurement is being one of the sort of ongoing debates that I've certainly been part of in recent months. There are many areas we're exploring. We're currently in the process of testing some third-party testing models of measurement. So I think within the coming months, you will certainly see something that's certainly providing more of a robust measurement and certainly into the incremental reach area, which I mentioned earlier. So watch this space. It's something it's to be tested very soon.
And is that something that's going to be specific to your platform, or is this more kind of a cross-industry measurement?
Well, I'd like to think it'd be cross-industry, but it's certainly something we're addressing within Rakuten. So we'd like to think we are, at the forefront of driving it, but we hope that the industry certainly adapts to it as well.
Great. And this one is asking about, so specific to the pandemic here, how do you see features like AVOD for download to go in this pandemic scenario? Would this still be relevant? Would this still be a relevant feature for monetization?
Sorry, could you just ask that one
again?
Yeah,
so how do you see features like AVOD for download to go in this pandemic scenario?
Yeah.
Would this still be a relevant feature for monetization?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our AVOD service is fully downloadable, but it still has that element of the advertising going across the content. So yeah, very much. I mean, we have users across all devices to capture that on the move moment. And I know we're not very mobile at the moment, but the fact we are cross-device enables us to not only watch it on the largest screen in the house, but also on our mobile and tablet devices as well.
Okay, and can you talk a bit about the different targeting methods that are typically used for an AVOD campaign?
Yeah, so we have digital-like targeting. So through our ad server, we're able to target by geo, by time-based targeting. But I think the most important one to really sort of explore is the contextual targeting. That's targeting against specific content that is relevant to the KPIs of a client's brief. So that's something we explore quite regularly, and been having an abundance of choice within the platform, we're able to build a profile or an audience segment that can cater to a KPI challenge. So
more targeting the person as opposed to the program.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we don't collect any data on our users aside from their their email login. So the programming and their interest in the programming is how we would target those users. Okay.
And then this one is looking at what would be your top tip for advertisers to take advantage of the AVOD opportunity. So I guess this is maybe you've got a new advertiser that's looking to start investing in this. Yeah, where should they go?
No, absolutely. I mean, as I touched on earlier, connected TV is the biggest screen on the house, and so that's going to have the biggest impact on the household. So if your aim is to reach an audience on the most the cinema-like screen in the house, then connected TV is where it's at, and AVOD provides that. But also and we touched on this earlier, the subscription services and the subscription fatigue, as some people call it, or in this research, the cost element. AVOD provides that free solution and lets advertisers achieve, reaching that audience who are particularly interested in streaming their on-demand content.
So you talked earlier about the average consumer having 2 subscriptions. Do you have any insight into which ones those are?
Well, I think they're the obvious ones, but what we're finding, I mean, I was quite surprised by it only being 2 in Europe as a whole, and I know other countries have a slight variance. I mean, me personally, I think I've got about 5 on the go, but then again, I've got a family, so yeah, I mean, cost is certainly paramount, but the obvious choices of Netflix and Amazon Prime are the ones that feature as the go-to streaming services, but that's become a more competitive landscape with more streaming services coming to play in the coming months. So how many do you sign up for? I mean,
I think you're right there.
What bank balance allow?
Yeah, I think we saw, didn't we, the surge in Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Strategically launched in the middle of lockdown, and every family scrambling to join that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the combination of the limited 2 and then the AVOD is a nice mixture. So this one is, okay, so how is AVOD impacting other media consumptions such as cinema?
Well, I mean, cinema is obviously taking a real hit because the cinemas aren't open until they find a way to, ensure that numbers can go back to the cinema to watch films on the biggest screen. That will struggle, but ultimately, the cinema is never going to go away. That's always going to be a drive to for consumers. So it's not a case of taking share away from cinema. It really is just providing an alternative for people who not just stuck at home, but when their lives return to normal, their consuming habits, because AVOD is something that they can adapt to because it is free to view. They can dip in and out and they adapt it to their viewing habits. So it's not really a case of taking share away from anyone else. It's sitting into their viewing habits, which what we averaged about over an hour plus of VOD content that they consume every single day. So it's always going to be there, but it's an additional source of entertainment.
And do you see the cinema companies because already there's been one I won't mention the name, but one cinema company that is moving to the online space, because there has been restrictions of people going to cinemas, and we know that they're starting to open now, so they're moving their content. So do you see cinemas being able to have the kind of subscription based, or maybe going down this AVOD route?
Well, I mean, certainly from the film studio side, and we're fortunate to have a TVOD, the transactional side of our business within Rakuten TV. So we work alongside the studios, and the studios have adapted to the ever-changing times, and so they've had movie releases. Their premieres have been online as opposed to on the cinemas. They've just adapted. That's not to say that they're not going to be doing the big movie releases on cinema, but they're catering for where the audiences are. So I think it's adapting to the current times. But when those times change, they will adapt and they will switch back to normal, because in no time at all we'll be viewing cinemas in a very different way, but they will still be that place.
Yeah. And so this one is related to the privacy aspect. So what are your thoughts on TCF implementation moving to the CTV and OTT space?
I mean, with the privacy side, I mean, we're fully GDPR compliant and we're brand safe. So it's not everything is chosen to view. They're opting to choose. They're choosing to watch it. So like we have a consent offering that we currently have both from our TVOD side and into our AVOD. The privacy side, as long as they're opted in, the targeting of the ads can be applicable.
Okay, and then just focusing on the brand safety aspect. So is there any differences in brand safety when it comes to CTV compared to maybe, traditional kind of digital ads, and what common controls do you have in place?
Yeah, so I mean, for the brand safety, we have the same process as digital in terms of being able to measure brand safety. So from the ad server side, they're able to apply various verification tags. That's certainly in play. It's developing. It's growing more and more, because the way that tags are set up between connected TV and digital, for example, are slightly different. So the industry is going through certain developments and changes to accommodate, but the same principle. It's different from digital, because there's no fraud or bot traffic, because the smart TV is when it's turned on and when it's viewed, there's a person behind that remote control.
Okay, great. And I think we're nearly finishing on the questions. So I'm just to let the audience know, if you've got any additional questions, please do put them into the Q&A box, which is at the very bottom of the screen. And just while we see if there's another couple that come in, Chris, just looking at kind of, I guess, your plans in terms of research, will you be doing any follow-up to these studies? What's next on the pipeline for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, this was a piece of research that was done as Rakuten Advertising, not just Rakuten TV. So we were looking at AVOD consumption across the whole of Europe. So yes, I'm sure there's going to be more specific detail that we'll be looking to drill down deeper into as our platform changes, as the content grows, and as the industry really sort of takes a different turn. So the insights that we've garnished from this have really been helped in terms of how we're going to develop the platforms, not just from our Rakuten TV platform, but our other media properties as well, that we're finding very beneficial. So yeah, it's always going to be an area that we'd like to explore. And
can you give any, like, a sneak preview into some of those plans that you have coming up? You said about developing the platform.
Well, I say developing the platform because we've been launching content pretty much every single month, and even during lockdown, whether it's original pieces of content or more channels. So, Rakuten TV has only been live as a hybrid AVOD platform since November last year. And in 6 months, it's tripled in viewers, but also substantially grown in terms of the content that we have on the platform. So the next 6 months, we've got a full roster of content to be launched, and very exciting times they will be. So as the growth of the platform, we in turn will look to explore into how the users view the platform, and how they cross over between both the transactional side and the free to view side as well.
Okay, great. And what has been your favorite thing that you've watched over the last couple of months in lockdown?
Well, I mean, when I think I'm going to have to say, because I'm a bit of a sport nut. I do love my sport documentaries, and I really enjoyed, and this is not in any way cliched, I really enjoyed the Sadio Mane documentary made in Senegal. This guy plays Liverpool FC. He's just won the Premier League in the UK. But what's fascinating about him is everything he earns as a footballer, he gives back to his community. Amazing, so he's had hospitals, stadiums built, and hotels all in Senegal. He gives everything back. He literally walks around with a battered, bruised mobile phone, just lives on the basics. So it's the story about what he gives back and how he's perceived in his home country, is a fascinating story. And the fact that he's obviously one of the world's greatest strikers. So that was a really enlightening, empowering story. So really enjoyed that one.
Amazing. Sounds a little bit more aspirational and uplifting than Tiger King.
Well, that's when I can get away from my kids, because they hog the Disney Plus on the TV behind me. So,
I'm talking about Tiger King, the Netflix one.
Oh yeah, I know that. My kids are wanting that as well, but yeah, I had to fight them off. It's not a cartoon.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much, Chris. I think that was super helpful, and I will pass you back to Marie-Claire now. Thanks.
I realised I was on mute. Thanks, Helen, and thanks, Chris, for that great presentation. And I think, look forward to the new content coming through the platform over the next few months. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for joining today's session. As I mentioned at the beginning, that we have recorded it. it will be available to view on our website from tomorrow, and we will also share a link to download the research that Chris presented as well with everyone afterwards. And if you are interested in finding out more about CTV, AVOD, etc., IAB Europe does have a CTV event coming up, virtual CTV event that is, on the 6th of October. So if you just head to our website, iabeurope.eu/events, you can find out more about that there. So with that, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Chris, and hopefully see you all soon.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.